Globalization, a multifaceted phenomenon, has emerged as a defining feature of the contemporary world, reshaping economies, societies, and cultures on a global scale. At its core, globalization refers to the interconnectedness and interdependence of nations and peoples facilitated by advancements in technology, communication, and trade. It encompasses a wide array of processes, including the flow of goods, services, capital, information, and ideas across borders, as well as the proliferation of transnational institutions and networks. One of the central drivers of globalization is economic integration, spurred by the liberalization of trade and investment barriers. The rise of multinational corporations and the expansion of global supply chains have led to increased economic interdependence among nations, with goods and services flowing more freely across borders than ever before. While globalization has undoubtedly contributed to economic growth and development in many parts of the world, it has also given rise to concerns about inequality, exploitation, and environmental degradation. Critics argue that globalization has disproportionately benefited wealthy elites and multinational corporations at the expense of workers, local communities, and the environment. In addition to its economic dimensions, globalization has profound social and cultural implications. The spread of Western consumer culture, facilitated by global media and advertising, has led to the homogenization of tastes and lifestyles in many parts of the world. At the same time, globalization has also sparked a resurgence of cultural nationalism and identity politics, as marginalized groups seek to assert their distinctiveness in the face of perceived cultural imperialism. Debates over multiculturalism, cultural appropriation, and cultural authenticity have become increasingly prominent in the era of globalization, reflecting the complex interplay between global and local forces shaping contemporary cultural dynamics. Globalization also encompasses political and environmental dimensions, with far-reaching implications for governance, security, and sustainability. The rise of supranational institutions such as the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund reflects efforts to manage the challenges and opportunities posed by globalization through multilateral cooperation and diplomacy. However, globalization has also given rise to tensions between the forces of global integration and those of national sovereignty, as states grapple with issues such as immigration, terrorism, and climate change that transcend traditional borders. Globalization, while often associated with contemporary trends in technology and trade, has historical roots that extend back centuries. The origins of globalization can be traced to the ancient Silk Road, a network of trade routes that connected China with the Mediterranean world, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures across vast distances. The Silk Road not only facilitated the spread of commodities such as silk, spices, and precious metals, but also facilitated the transmission of knowledge, religion, and technology between East and West. The rise of European colonialism in the 15th and 16th centuries marked another significant milestone in the history of globalization. European explorers such as Christopher Columbus, Vasco da Gama, and Ferdinand Magellan embarked on ambitious voyages of discovery, opening up new sea routes to Asia, Africa, and the Americas. These voyages not only led to the expansion of European empires, but also facilitated the exchange of goods, crops, and cultures between the Old World and the New World. The Columbian Exchange, for example, resulted in the widespread diffusion of crops, such as potatoes, maize, and tomatoes, transforming diets and agricultural practices around the globe. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th centuries further accelerated the process of globalization, as advances in technology and transportation revolutionized the production and distribution of goods. The invention of the steam engine, the telegraph, and the railroad facilitated the movement of people, goods, and information across continents at unprecedented speed and scale. The rise of capitalism and the emergence of global markets fueled demand for raw materials and labor, leading to the expansion of trade networks and the integration of national economies into a global economic system. The 20th century witnessed further intensification of globalization, fueled by advances in communication, transportation, and finance. The proliferation of telecommunication technologies such as the telephone, radio, and television enabled instant communication and the dissemination of information on a global scale. The establishment of international organizations such as the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund reflected efforts to promote global cooperation and stability in the aftermath of two devastating world wars. The end of the Cold War in the late 20th century ushered in a new era of globalization, characterized by the rapid expansion of trade, investment, and technology across borders. The advent of the internet and digital technologies revolutionized communication and commerce, facilitating the emergence of a globalized economy and culture. The collapse of communist regimes in Eastern Europe and the opening up of China and other formerly closed economies to the forces of globalization further accelerated the process of economic integration and interconnectedness. Critics of globalization argue that it has led to a race to the bottom in terms of labor and environmental standards, as countries compete to attract investment and maintain competitiveness in the global marketplace. They point to the proliferation of sweatshops, environmental degradation, and social dislocation as evidence of the dark side of globalization. Proponents, on the other hand, argue that globalization has the potential to lift millions of people out of poverty, promote cultural exchange and understanding, and foster peace and cooperation among nations. In conclusion, globalization is a complex and contested phenomenon that defies easy categorization or assessment. While it has undoubtedly brought about significant economic, social, and cultural changes, its impact has been unevenly distributed, with winners and losers both within and among countries. As the forces of globalization continue to shape our world in the 21st century, it is imperative that we critically examine its effects and strive to harness its potential for the collective benefit of humanity while mitigating its negative consequences.